Welcome to the Social Podcast, where no discussion or debate is off limits.
Welcome, everybody, to the show. Welcome to The Social. Joining us today is writer Sachi Cole.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Nice. Good to have you here. Everyone is so good looking on stage, and then also this is like one of those audiences where it feels like they just went over with like an airbrush.
I know.
You guys all look so good.
Central casting.
Yeah.
Central casting.
Yeah. I would buy it.
They're just very stylish people.
They are.
They are.
Show up. I'm glad I
I love the way they just clap for themselves.
We're gorgeous.
We are beautiful.
Well, listen, I hate to be the downer on this parade, but we are marking an anniversary today, a pretty big one. It has been 5 years since the WHO declared COVID-19 a pandemic. So 5 years, it almost feels like it's happened in a blink of an eye, and yet it was just yesterday. Sachi, we're going to start with you. A lot has changed since then and because of the pandemic.
Yeah.
What has changed for you?
Oh my God, everything. I got married and moved to New York right before the pandemic, and then
Congrats.
thanks. I got a divorce, I lost my job, and my mom got cancer during the pandemic.
Well, that took a turn.
Oh my God, you guys are so serious. Everything's okay. I'm alive. But I think the pandemic was formative for a lot of people. It was almost like this other puberty that we had to have as adults. And I don't think we're done. I think if you think about how many people died and how much of an impact it's had, the lack of rituals we've had around it, the lack of discussion we've had around it, this 5 years, I think part of why it's so jarring and feels like it just happened and yet happened a million years ago is because we didn't talk about it for 5 years.
You think we're still grieving?
Oh, yeah. If you lose that many people and you don't have, like, I think rituals are important. This is why we have funerals and birthdays. This is why we like talk to each other like this. We want structure. And when we don't have it, I think it really jars people and it makes it hard to move on. And this is why we're all it feels like there's a stagnation in all of us, I think, because we didn't really fully address it. We're still doing that 5 years later.
I agree with you. And it's not only that, it's that nervous system disruption. You know, we all underwent this incredible trauma to varying degrees, but just the shock of being told that you're staying home. We all remember exactly where we were in our entire life, in our workplaces, and our children's lives changed. And I think that nervous system disruption, we all know about the way we were designed as humans was to like see a bear, have our nervous system be activated, and then like run away from the bear and then hang out with our friends. And instead, we had this perpetual fight or flight activation. And I think we're still seeing the ramifications of that. We have this sense that there's something just around the corner. And I think that's a direct correlation to the divisiveness we're seeing in the world today, because we developed the sense of like, what can we trust? And so instead, we've started turning on each other. And I think that we really need to recognize, see it, and start to interrogate that, because we're almost become victims of our own biology to a certain extent until we start to calm our nervous systems down and feel safe again.
Yeah, that's
Interesting that you say that. It's so the opposite of how I feel, because at the time I was an anchor at news channels, so I was like, really, this was all I was talking about every single day. And I remember talking to Dr. Bogosh about all the ways we can prevent the spread of viruses, and we felt like we were all taking a science lesson. And I remember just the simple basic things of like covering your mouth, wearing a mask if you're feeling sick, wash your hands. And I feel like, you know that little wand that they use in Men in Black to like erase everybody's memory? I feel like we all got wanded and everybody forgot all those things, because now when I walk down the street, everybody's coughing without their covering their mouth. People are sneezing. They're standing entirely too close to you. I don't see people washing their hands. I still see people in grocery stores taking things and eating them and touching doors. And I'm like, did we not go over this a million times during the pandemic? How are we here? I feel like people just completely forgot, and they just like put it in the back of their mind. It's like, oh, that pandemic, that didn't really happen. So I feel like that's what I'm seeing. But on the second thing I'm noticing is all the relationships. You guys remember during the pandemic, all the single people panicked and they were like, I've got to get married immediately. And everybody went on the dating apps and everybody started, if you were on the outs with somebody, you're like, you know what, hey, let's circle back. I think we can work this out. And at the same time, I also remember, and it was quite alarming and also quite sad to see all the number of divorces that happened and the domestic violence. So that's the part that sticks out in my mind. I was like, everybody just had a chance without any distractions to really think about their lives and who they want to be partner up with and the panic of being by themselves. And that's the part that sticks out to me.
I want to go back to your first point, because I think the science part of this is what really got me. I mean, there was the really good part of this, which was the explosion of telemedicine and virtual healthcare. We just didn't have it before COVID, and that's a good thing, I think, that came out of COVID. It's like, oh, I can have a virtual call with my doctor. Do you know in many provinces and territories, there weren't even billing codes. So doctors they couldn't even charge for that. So I think a lot of provinces really quickly said, okay, let's really facilitate doctors and getting care. And to this day, I think that's helping not only for, whatever your run-of-the-mill issue is with your doctor, but remote and rural areas, a lot of places that never really even had a doctor, you can hopefully try to get one on the phone now. The flip side of this,
too. Like I'm just thinking about
mental health.
mental health.
It's all online
Hidden
now.
online. Sorry.
Absolutely.
Continue.
The flip side of this, though, is the science and then the anti-science.
Which we're still fighting.
Everybody
We're
became
still
an
fighting.
expert.
So what happened was the early days, we didn't know what we didn't know. We were just scared to death of dying. And we were scared to death. For me, it was like, protect my parents, right?
Yeah.
They're elderly. We saw so many people in long-term care homes who lost their lives. So there was the panic. So you go to what you think you know, and you think science. But what we also learned in all of this, because of vaccines, was we learned science isn't set in stone. Science is in and of itself something that's always evolving. But
I was like,
but a lot of people to this day don't believe that. They were like, you said the vaccine would prevent me from getting it, and I still got it. And it's like, you weren't listening. This is gonna help you maybe not die, but you might still get it. The nuance was lost. So I think what we're still dealing with is in this hangover with now a guy named Robert F. Kennedy Jr. heading up the Secretary of Health.
Oh, you guys are worried about the guy whose brain was full of worms? I think he's definitely going to be able to figure it out. What's the problem?
I think him being
You don't
appointed,
have brains in your worms? What do you mean?
But don't you think that him being appointed to that role and the Make America Healthy Again movement, don't you think that's a direct offshoot
No,
of the
absolutely.
anti-vax?
Oh, for sure. I mean, I
Absolutely.
think some of this is also about the commodification of healthcare. I think some people really believe if I'm getting something from you for healthcare, that's a good and a service, and so it should work. And it doesn't always work like that because your body works the way your body works, and it's not going to work the way mine works. We can do our best. Medicine is sometimes guesswork, but it still means you should do it. And I think COVID was also, both in terms of medicine and science and just in terms of how we socialize, it was one of the first times I think some people realized you have to take care of the other people who are around you. You have a responsibility to other people, and I don't think people are always super community-based like that. And I think we saw how it failed in a lot of ways. Yeah. People who don't want to wear a mask on the trains still.
It's still happening. It really, really is. I think the social part of it, circling back to that, I think for kids, my daughter had just turned 6, 2 days later, lockdown. And to this day, I think, how has this affected her? We have seen what this has done to young people. If there's teachers in the audience, they are still reeling from this. And I think it depended on the age. Our kids were young enough.
Oh my God, I was going through photos to do this. Like I found these videos of Jaya when we were working from home doing the show, which thank you, by the way, so many people have reached out to us who said we were kind of a lifeline during that. And we were beside ourselves.
We were in our basements, in our attics.
But I do think our kids are resilient, and I do have hopes that we're gonna, figure this out going forward. They're gonna be okay. The kids are gonna be okay.
You think so? Yeah. Okay. Sachi, you mentioned it off the top, but we understand that your life changed a lot during the pandemic. And in fact, you wrote so much about it in a book, and it's called all about those life changes you experienced. The book is called Sucker Punch.
I love it.
Sucker Punch.
That's a great cover.
Isn't it good?
So tell us about this.
God, you guys were so anxious about divorce. It's kind of dope. Like, it's great. Like,
What's dope about divorce?
everything. You get your whole life back. You get your sense of agency back. What are you talking about? You want me to talk to a man?
Listen, you're preaching to the choir here over here. But didn't you lose things? Don't you lose a little bit of money and maybe your property?
Let me tell you. It was expensive. It was time consuming. I did not have my apartment. I didn't have a couch. I lost a lot of my friends. It cost me a lot of time and energy. My hair fell out. My teeth were chipping. I was exhausted. It was the best thing I got myself.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna take your word for it.
I liked
Sucker
it.
Punch.
But the book is sort of about a lot of these things that happened to me around the same time in about 3 years during the pandemic and post-pandemic. I had this idea of what my life was gonna look like. I was gonna live in New York with this nice man, and we were gonna have a life, and I was gonna have a career, and this is what it was gonna look like. The pandemic came. It killed everything. My parents were stuck in India at the beginning of the pandemic. I was having a hard time getting them out. My marriage fell apart. I lost my job. And then the next week, my mom got diagnosed with breast cancer. And she was the only person, and still is the only person in our family to ever have any type of cancer. So it really came out of nowhere. So Sucker Punch is about that feeling of like, oh, somebody just hit me in the back of the head while I was walking away. Like no expectation that it was gonna come for me. And all of it was, I'm so grateful for all of it.
Yeah.
I'm glad.
How's your mom?
She's great. She's in remission. Yeah. And she's watching, which is very exciting.
Hi, Mom.
And look at you, now you have a book, your hair is beautiful,
I
your teeth
know.
are unchipped.
It's true. Look how fine I am.
I want to tell everybody listening, Sucker Punch is out now. Pick up your copy anywhere you find your favorite books.
All right, well, here's a hot one. A writer for Scary Mommy is asking, is having sex with your partner only once a month a bad thing? You guys don't even know how you feel about it. All right, so Sasha, do you have hard lines about what is and what isn't enough sex?
It's a really good
Hot
question.
sex.
Gross.
In a relationship.
Yeah. So my mother is watching, so I am a
So
virgin.
then let's get into it.
I'm a virgin. I've never done it. I don't really know what's involved.
Yeah, what is a penis?
I'm
Who
open.
knows?
That doesn't even need to be involved. I'm open to hearing about what it is and how long it takes that you can only do it once a month. It seems like an insufficient amount, but I don't think anybody can have hard rules. Like, it's about what you're interested
Our
in.
sex and relationship expert?
Well, I mean, listen, studies, there's been multiple studies, and not just like of a handful of people. There was one that was of 30,000 people, and they said that the Goldilocks number of happy couples who are having sex have sex once a week. Now, that doesn't mean, that's not average.
There's a woman over there
people are
clapping real
whatever.
hard.
That doesn't mean if you have if you have more sex than that, it doesn't mean you're gonna be necessarily any happier. Less sex than that does show a little bit less satisfaction. But I think we've talked about this before. I think every couple is unique in some regard. The one thing I will say that I've heard from lots of people is that when you stop connecting in an intimate way, and that doesn't necessarily mean intercourse, but if you stop connecting with your partner, you can easily, it's like almost like working out, you know? How getting back on the bike is hard after you've been off the saddle for a while. Am I doing bad analogies
Wow,
here?
yeah.
So I feel like you are begging me to make a joke.
Right, I know. I was opening it up.
Yeah,
right?
you really are.
But yeah, I think that that's what you talk about. People talk about like the roommate syndrome, and it definitely gets harder to approach one another. So I just want to make the case for good enough sex. Like I think that we need to talk more about like it's okay if it's not great, it's not bombastic, it's just connective.
It's just, you're doing it.
It's like
there's
put
no
the
such-
TV on.
It's like there's no
Yeah.
such thing as bad
Whatever.
pizza.
Well, I mean,
No, that's a lie. There's bad pizza.
pizza.
I feel like if you're not having it a lot, first of all, this sounds strange. To a person who lives by themselves, this sounds very odd that you would be under the same roof, seeing each other every single day, sharing a bed, and only having sex once a month.
Kids make it challenging. Kids
I know, but don't they have their own room? Are they in the room?
No, but it's still
It's just hard to wrap your brain around. But then as I've gotten older and you have elderly parents, maybe you've lost your job, all of these things I understand can affect that. But I'm thinking at this stage of life, it's more about quality over quantity. Like, right, say I'm married and I have 3 kids and my in-laws are in the basement, but my husband and I are like, every weekend, every third weekend, we're gonna go away, we're gonna have our time, and then we're gonna have our time. But that's quality over, once a week we gotta do it, the kids are sleeping, come on, just give me a quick 5. Like, I don't want that.
That's fair.
Just to say we're doing it once a week, I'd rather it be
Quality.
when we do it, we sweat this hair out, we're gonna do it.
Yeah. I think that's the ideal. That sounds great. It sounds great, but I think for me, so much of sex happens way outside of the bedroom and has nothing to do with what's actually happening in the bedroom. For us, sex is a barometer of the rest of the relationship. So whether you're busy or you're stressed, and I also want to normalize that you can have seasons in your sex life,
Agreed.
right? And I say this because I'm in my menopausal season, and this season for a lot of women is often associated with nose-diving libido. Even if you were someone who had average amount of sex, maybe once a week, maybe once a month, for a lot of women in this stage, they wake up one day. I was just with my girlfriends last week, and the whole discussion was, how much sex are you having? Do you even want to? I'm not gonna name names.
Were they all in long-term relationships?
Most of them, not all.
Okay.
And the whole point was, I used to really enjoy it, and I feel like I'm losing connection with my partner because I don't want it anymore. Am I broken? You're not broken. It's menopause. So what I want to say is let's also normalize there are seasons where it's going to go up and down, and you might not have all that sex, and it's okay with you. The question is, are you talking to your partner, and is it okay with them too?
Yeah, you gotta talk
I think
to
you
them.
might both not necessarily want it, or you both might want it, and then go see a therapist, go talk to your doctor. Am I right?
Well,
Am I right?
on all of that, I'll just add in that I think one of the other pieces that we don't don't talk enough about is that monogamous sex is hard. If you're in long-term relationships, it is hard.
So you're
I'm just saying that I think it takes an extra effort if you want to keep things imaginative, if you want to kind of keep things going.
So you're advocating side pieces?
No, I'm not advocating that. What I am, not at all. What I am saying is that there's this assumption that, like, I know a lot of divorced women, for example, who've gone through amicable divorces, who all of a sudden their libido explodes again. So I don't know if it's necessarily correlated to aging. We also know women later in life also can have robust sex drives. I think it's individualized. I think there are so many different factors. How's your relationship with your partner? Where are your kids' lives at? Are you taking care of other people? All these factors come into play. Just keep the lines of communication open. That's what we'll say.
That's good advice.
Okay. We're moving on to Gene Simmons, who is offering...
Speaking of sex.
That's right. He's offering fans the opportunity to be his personal assistant and roadie for a day on his upcoming tour. So the experience costs almost $13,000 plus the original ticket price. So that's a lot of money, but would this be a fun fan opportunity or is it problematic?
Okay, listen.
You have to pay me 13 grand to spend time with Gene Simmons.
See,
like, I gotta pay him to carry his guitar. He needs to give me money to do that. Why am I paying him?
I know, but the devil is in the details, because I had that reaction at first. I'm like, why would I spend that kind of money? I will remind people, just a couple months ago, when Taylor Swift was here, and a lot of parents shelled out a lot of money very close to
I
that.
also find that objectionable.
Just to see her, and they left. You leave with your memories and the video and the photos on your phone. You don't get anything. This is what he's offering. Is you're gonna take home one of Simmons' bass guitars, which can be signed and personalized for $6,500 for a non-stage played instrument, or $12,500 for the one that he previously played in a show. So part of that money is you're leaving with a guitar.
I'm paying more
And
money
you
for
think
the
about
used
when
item.
he passes, you're paying, but you're getting what he's saying is it's not just you're not just paying. Yeah, it's got his essence, and he might sign it. So you're leaving with something. You're not just leaving with nothing and just your memories. So when I heard that, I'm like, okay, it still sounds a little problematic because I'm thinking if I could have access to my favorite rock star at a certain time in my life, I don't want a guitar, baby. I want a little something else. But, right? Come on. Prince, Bobby Brown, back in the day, I'd have been like, here, how much?
You think you would be, but then, like, I mean, the reality is, if you're a super fan of somebody, I feel like there'd be too much pressure on this. You've spent all this money, and I'd be wondering the whole time, are they like kind of like, oh, I gotta hang out with this fan?
Precisely.
You know
I don't
what
want to spend time with anyone I admire. This is very stressful for me. So I like want to leave immediately. I don't like meeting people I like. Why would you want to spend time with someone that you're in awe of? That sounds awful.
You maybe pick somebody who'd only low-key like I would love to do this with Barry Manilow. Barry Manilow would be in, people are Googling, who the hell is Barry Manilow?
You guys better know who Barry Manilow is.
It's fine, you should know, Google. Anyway, somebody, would you do this? Would you, well, first of all, don't you have a Gene Simmons story?
I do, and how do I say this? I think we have to go to break. I'll be honest, I had a really terrible experience with him. He was one of my very first celebrity interviews when I became, I was a Cub reporter. I was maybe in my mid-20s. I probably looked a lot younger than that. And that my news director had said, you're gonna be on the, spend a day with Gene. Didn't have to pay. But I had the camera, and we had a camera and a microphone, and they had said, listen, we're gonna go to the venue, but you're gonna go into the limo with Gene, and we're gonna follow you in the truck. Oof. I'll be honest, I was too young for that, and it was really inappropriate. And I'll be honest, it was very uncomfortable. That's all I'm gonna say. It was inappropriate. I was very uncomfortable. And to me, I think he looked at me maybe as a lot of groupies are. And I'm like, I ain't a groupie, and I'm just here to do my job.
He needs to pay you. He needs to pay you.
All right, so we know that long lashes, they've been admired for ages, but now there are some guys on TikTok who are doing this. Trimming their eyelashes. Yeah, they're trimming them with clippers, and here's the reason. Here's the reason. To look more masculine. Sachi, I mean, Kwame is like, are you kidding me? No. Would you do this, Kwame?
We are not doing this.
We are not doing this.
Thank you. Thank you.
No. Okay. What do you think?
Oh, I think it's great. I love it. I think if men want to adopt more things to alter themselves because they feel like they need to do it like we have to do it, I'm fine with it. Do you know how much hair I pulled out of my body to come here? Fine. Cut your lashes off. I don't have to pay for it. Get little things in your eyes because you don't have lashes. So be it. I think they should do more weird things to their faces. I actually think we should give men more complexes. I'm gonna start a rumor that like, ooh, having hips is like kind of gay. So they're gonna get a surgery to become perfectly straight. Anything. They should do it. Go for it. What do I care?
Divorce has changed you, Sachi. I'm just gonna say.
I was actually like this before. That is the problem.
Okay. I just, when I hear this story, I'm like, do you remember the good old days when men would like build log cabins with their hands and know how to fix a carburetor? Now they are going to the barber to shave off their eyelashes. Like, I personally don't know any men who would do this, but this whole story to me is like, are we this idle? Is this what we went through? Is this what our forefathers went through so that when they left their countries to build a new life so that your grandson could be shaving his eyelashes? Like, I don't understand where we're going with this.
We used to send men to war.
And now
we don't anymore.
Oh my gosh.
I just say nothing says male fragility quite like this, if you know what I mean. I don't know what's next. Is there going to be, because eyelashes are too feminine, so are you going to now have like nipple removal surgery? Are you going to now start removing your earlobes? Like, this is the next level. You know what I need to say to these boys? Go get a hobby.
Yeah.
And I'll just say this. If like long hair is a feminine thing, where's the social media trend that celebrates random nipple and chin hairs? That's what I want to know, because I would like to see that happen because that's what I'm living through.
Who's random nipple and hair?
Yeah, I was
just mine.
Oh. I can do that. Do you want me to start? I can start Instagram. How hard is it?
Guys, this topic died.
It just died.
Thank you.
Nobody liked my idea to give people more complexes. I thought it was a great idea.
It's true. Listen, everybody, Sachi, thank you so much. It's been a while.
So good to have you.
Congrats on the book.
Subscribe to the Social Podcast so you don't miss a fiery debate. Until next time, socialites.